welcome to our Family Friday webinar. Today we're talking about supporting your student through registration. I'm Bridget Guernsey-Reardon and I'm with Family Programs with Campus Life, and it's my pleasure to be one of the folks that will facilitate our conversation today. We've got some great experts. We want you to know that this is something for your student to learn, but it's something that we know that you will be supporting through the process. So I'm excited to talk with you and talk with our experts about helping your student. And I'm going to give it over to my colleague, Sherry Obrens in the college, and she'll go from here, and I'll be back and we'll be chiming in throughout this program.
Great, thanks Bridget. Hi family, my name is Sherry Obrens. I'm an Associate Dean in the Office for Undergraduate Education in the College of Arts and Sciences. We're so happy to have you join us again, talking about this support through your students' registration. We know registration is such an important time for your students. It's what they've been waiting for to start their college journey. And while we know this has been, a different summer and a different year than what we expected, what hasn't changed is our commitment to providing really great advising and support for your students. And so as we go through this presentation, we have two of our great advising professionals, Elizabeth Morrison and Kimber Clark. We're going to be sharing some information with you. And we promise that we will be there every step of the way with your students as they figure out their fall schedules. So we will get started.
We do want to mention also that this has been pre-recorded because of our schedules. However, during the time that you're watching it, please feel free to put some questions in the chat and we'll be there to answer them. But we just want you to know that this is pre-recorded.
Yeah. So the topics that we're going to go over today are prepping for registration, what your students can start doing now in order to register in just a few weeks, their responsibilities. So at this point, we are putting a lot on your students' plate to learn some information on their own, to submit scores and other things to get ready for registration. And so as you support them, a lot of what we're going to suggest is how you can ask them questions to make sure that they are doing what they need to do. We will talk about our registration appointment windows, our AddDrop Swap period, and then we will give you a list of questions that we think might be helpful in asking your students as you support them through this process. So we'll jump right in. Kimber Clark, one of our assistant directors in advising, is going to share more information with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're so excited to have you. My name is Kimber Clark, and I am an advisor in the Office for Undergraduate Education. So the first few things that I'd like to discuss with you are how you can, you and your student can prepare and be prepared for registration. We understand and we know that this is a very big event in your students, for one of their first experiences here in the college. And so we definitely have a list of things here that we'd like to encourage your students to make sure that they do in advance. First of all, we'd like to make sure that all of your students' AP, IB, and previous college transcripts have been submitted. And this is very important because by having all of the relevant information posted, their credits posted, your students can really make more informed decisions about the requirements that they've already completed and what they'd like to do next. And so for AP and IB, the code is there listed for you to make sure that they come directly from the College Board. And for previous college credit, we do ask that your students submit the actual transcript from the university and the admissions form that allows our admissions office to review for potential credit. We also would love for your students to go ahead and start perusing those departmental websites. These websites offer a great deal of information that can be very useful for your students as they begin exploring potential areas of interest. For those of your students that already may have an idea that they're interested in a particular track, which again could change, but for now, if they have a particular interest in, for instance, nursing or business, you can have your students review those advising presentations and our lovely reference pages. These reference pages are going to be a wonderful resource for your students in Emory Essentials. The course atlas is going to be one of your students' best friends as they begin this journey of registration. The course atlas will allow your student to really start looking at the courses that are going to be offered during the fall semester. They will provide a lot of useful information, including course description, when the class is being held, and in this case, if it's going to be synchronous or asynchronous, the instructor's name, the course number that they'll use to register in Opus. So all sorts of things that will be useful for your student as they begin this registration process. The shopping cart is equivalent to what we might consider an Amazon wish list. And so here we would like your students to really load up what classes they may be interested in. We ask that they be very generous with the classes that they're looking at so that it can help them with possible multiple schedules. Your students are definitely going to want to have a variety of classes for each area that they're looking at taking so that when it comes time to register, those classes are already in their shopping cart, their Amazon wish list basically, so that the process becomes much smoother and easier and definitely less stressful for them. We always want your students to keep an open mind though, and remember that no schedule is perfect, and having those multiple options in your shopping cart is really going to help keep that your student able to have that open mind. So your students have already actually been working on some of the things to help them get prepared for registration. And so Emory Essentials is going to be what they have already been working on and preparing for registration and for orientation. So at this point, they have completed some of the Enry Essentials. You can see all of the dates listed here, and they will continue working on these available to them through Canvas, leading all the way up to their pre-registration advising appointment, which will occur later this month in July. This will happen with one of our great staff members, and this will give your students an opportunity to review all of those first year requirements, general education requirements, and get some ideas for their fall schedule. And so those registration appointment dates are very important for you and your students. There's going to be 2 appointment times for the initial registration period. On August 6th and 7th, a Emory staff member will go in and pre-enroll your student into 5 credits. These 5 credits are our PACE 101 course and our Health 100 course. All students will be in both of these classes. Each of those are worth 1 credit, and each of those count towards the total for graduation. The other classes are our first year writing requirement and our freshman seminar requirement. All students will take both of these classes as well. Now remember those important AP scores I asked you about earlier in the presentation? If your student has AP or IB for English, this could potentially count for that first year writing. So you can see why it is important that that credit is posted in advance. Then we know we don't have to register for them for that class because they've already received the credit for it. And then the first year seminar, of course, is a Emory unique class. We will register your student for one of these courses as well. They're all wonderful. They're all taught by our great faculty. And if your student would like the opportunity to change it at a later time, they could. But for now, we will go ahead and register them for these 5 credits. And these comprise our first year requirements. Then on August 10th and 11th, this is going to be the chance for your student to choose their remaining courses. And as you can see, they have a time frame in which they will enroll in Opus their remaining credits. So in addition to the 5 that are already there, they will have the opportunity to register for the rest for a total of what we recommend, which is a 15 to 17 credits. Your students will have the opportunity to choose from classes that fulfill general education requirements. Maybe they have a major or a minor in mind that they would like to go ahead and take a class for, or if they don't, then they can just explore different disciplines to help comprise those 15 to 17 credits.
Before we move on, Kimber's given such a great overview of this, but love to just kind of ask Kimber and Elizabeth too. Some questions that we hear from parents often is, are 15 credits or 17 credits too few, too many? You know, we're in a new educational environment. Should my students take fewer than those or more than those? So can we talk a little bit about why we've laid out that 15 to 17 credits as the sweet spot?
Sure. Elizabeth, do you want to go?
Sure. Well, to that question, I would say that aiming for around 15 to 17 credits a semester is going to do two things for your students, kind of the magic number to shoot for. The first is that if you do later on in the semester need to withdraw from a class, if you're enrolled for 15 to 17 credits, that will allow you to withdraw from one of those classes and still stay at or above the 12 hours required for full-time status at Emory. The other thing that aiming for around 15 to 17 credits a semester will do is actually keep you on track to graduate in 4 years. And we know how important that is for everyone. So while the minimum required for full-time enrollment is 12 hours, we do recommend that we're shooting for around 15 to 17.
And I'll just add too, that 15 to 17 credits includes the health and PACE courses, our 1 credit courses that all of our first year students are taking. And those courses are really designed to help introduce our students both to Emory resources and opportunities so that they're really being set up for success inside and outside of the classroom. And also kind of healthy habits and lifestyles with our Health 100 class so that they're thinking about their time management and their diet and how they're exercising and stretching and breathing and all of those things that we know help them be successful as students and even in life outside of the classroom. So thank you so much. The other thing is that the AP credit.
Sorry, the PACE class is a non-graded class, correct?
Correct, yeah. PACE 101 is 1 academic credit. So it goes towards our graduation requirements, but there's no grade, it's just a pass scale. The Health 100 class is actually graded, but also is a general education requirement, goes towards graduation as well. So all good things.
Thank you.
Another thing to ask is whether or not those AP or IB credits or any previous college credits go towards graduation. Absolutely. So again, Kimber has harped on this twice now, but really important to get all of those scores and transcripts in now so that students can use those towards graduation. If at a later time they decide to take a class again or they don't want those credits on their transcripts, they can absolutely drop them. But for now, starting off, we want to give your students as many options as possible. Some of your students might actually have more AP or IB credits than we allow to post for credit. That's okay. Have them submit all of those scores. Again, they'll be able to choose which ones they want for credit. And if they're not using them for actual credits, they can still use them for placement. And so that's important too. So bottom line, just get all those scores in. The sooner you get them in, the better. And then we have lots of time to adjust afterwards once they're posted.
I just mentioned in the previous slide were those registration times. And we'd like to point out that registration is a process. It's not an event. So these dates that we previously mentioned, the time in which August 6th and 7th, we pre-enroll you, and then August 11th, in which you are able to register yourself or your students are able to register themselves. Those aren't the only times that students have access to registration. So we have a period called the AddDrop Swap period, and this is online and it's real time. So all students are registering for classes, making adjustments to their schedules, adding, dropping, swapping, all the kinds of things that they want to do to get their schedule the way that they would like it to be. And this period will start on August 17th, which is 2 days before classes begin, and go through August 26th. And this will give your students the opportunity to go to class, to see the syllabus, to talk to the instructor, to make sure that this is a class that they want to take this term. And as long as they make those changes to their schedule before the on the 26th, then that will become their schedule for this semester. And again, I'd like to make sure that you know that this is not just for first year students, this is all students. So all of our students are registering and it's all happening in real time. We want to, again, as Elizabeth mentioned, make sure that they maintain that 12 credit hours as a minimum.
And I'll just say AddDrop Swap is really where the bulk of our registration is happening. So those registration appointment times on the 10th of 11th give your students a great starting place and kind of probably some good core anchors to their schedule. But AddDrop Swap is when all of our students are making those informed decisions about what they want to take for that semester. And it is the norm that changes are happening throughout the week. I think we do benchmarking data on this every year, and 90% of our students are making changes to their schedules. So we can, we know that this is normal, this is fun, and really gives your students a chance to explore besides really committing for that semester term. A little bit more on this. Again, we've kind of talked about the goals of AddDrop Swap, but it is a chance to finalize the schedule and to balance the courses and the credits. Again, that sweet spot is 15 to 17 credits for all of the students. Students, after getting all those syllabi, might choose to go a little below to 14, maybe 13. That's okay. That still keeps them in full-time status. It does limit whether or not they may be able to withdraw later in the semester if something happens. And so the 15 gives them a little bit more of a safety net and cushion, but as long as they're maintaining those 12 credit hours, they are doing okay.
All right. So to help with these decisions, we will have plenty of student support available during AddDrop Swap. Here in the Office for Undergraduate Education, we'll be holding virtual drop-in advising hours during the AddDrop Swap period from 10 to 4 every day. This is just a great time for students to connect with an advisor to ask general questions about course load, the enrollment process itself, deadlines, and we can also help make referrals to different partners across campus. So in general, if students have questions during this time and they're not exactly sure where to start, they can definitely come to our virtual walk-in hours and talk to an advisor, and we can put them in touch with the resources that they need. During this time, our pre-health, pre-business advising offices will also be holding virtual walk-in hours for assistance in those areas. So if you have a student who is considering pre-health or has questions about starting the BBA program, they can also connect with advisors in those areas. And then of course, students will also have access to connect with their pre-major faculty advisors during this time as well for general assistance with course selections and questions about their schedule. So we just want to make sure that you and that your students know that they will be supported through this process.
Before we move on to some of those other questions, Elizabeth and Kimber, I'll just say, or maybe we can kind of comment together. Students often are striving for this kind of perfect schedule, and they are often asking, does this count? You know, will it count? Or if I don't get this exact class, I'm off track or I'm not going to make progress. And I'd just like to reiterate at this point, starting their college career, the beauty of a first semester is that everything counts. So we're already helping your students with those first year requirements with PACE Health in either their seminar or their writing, those all count. And then anything that they're earning credits for. So all of their classes are going towards their general graduation credits. And the reason we're asking students to explore across the general education requirements or across multiple academic departments in which they may be interested is so that they could count for something if and when they make that decision about focusing in on a track or a major. But really, there's no wasted time in this first semester at all. And so keeping that open mind, being flexible, you know, searching for classes that were not available to them in high school or in areas that weren't available in high school, this is the great time to do that. So Kimber or Elizabeth, if you want to add anything to those points, would love to hear what you have to say as well.
Yes, this is just a really great time for students to explore. Like Dean Oberon said, there may be certain areas that that students have always been sort of interested in scratching the surface of, but have never really been able to sort of dive deeply into. This is a great time to sort of gather information about what you're interested in, and to sort of help formulate that next step to declaring a major later on. We have plenty of students who start undecided. We're very happy when we're talking to students who aren't quite sure what they're going to major in. And as Dean Oberon said earlier, that often changes from when you start, your first semester at Emory, and then by the time you declare a major, because you've had exposure to all of these different classes and areas of interest. So we just really want our first year students to be comfortable with exploring classes during this time, and to know that that is perfectly okay, and that a lot of their classmates are doing the same thing.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And it can give you the opportunity to take advantage of the liberal arts education at Emory.
So this next slide, Bridget and I have been hosting these webinars for families for I think a few years now, and we've been compiling this list behind the scenes because we've worked with lots of families with new students over the years. And one of the things I think we'd really love to encourage you is to put the ball in your students' hands. They are the drivers of the Enry Essentials, of getting all their scores submitted, of making sure that they're learning how to use Opus and the Course Atlas and all of those things. We know it's a lot. We know it's a lot of new. And where we think you as parents and families can be most helpful is just asking the questions of where they are in the process. So Bridget, if you want to jump in, we can go through these maybe one by one, or how we came up with this list.
Yeah, a lot of this list is on our pathway to success, the Opus Access. Opus is the online pathway that students use to really navigate Emory. So one of the things you may want to do, we have all these questions listed, but one of the things you may want to do is sit with your student and say, let's go on Opus together. Because as a person who's a parent of a recent college grad, I can usually ask about 3 questions in a row. And then my usually very open daughter says, Mom, I've got it. So, but what might be helpful is if you go on the Opus system together, and then you can say, oh, look, it shows where these were posted. Oh, great. Okay, it shows that you have your AP IB scores in here. And that will help your student learn the system, and it'll help you too. And then you also look at, oh, it has where you have your previous college transcript from when you did a class at the community college. So you will able to look at it with your student, and you both can learn from it. And you also want to see, well, have you finished Enry Essentials 1 and 2? Those are the type of things that you might not be able to see on a system. And then also, what did you learn from it? You ask those type of questions, and then you'll have an idea if they finish. It might not be a yes or no answer. Sometimes it's good to use a phrase like, well, tell me, what was your PRA appointment like? Or tell me, oh, what was in the Course Atlas? Those type of non-questions, but they are questions, might lead to some really good discussions. I also, as a parent, sometimes recommend having these conversations, even if you're in the car together or someplace where you don't feel like you're drilling your student. And that might be a way for your student to open up and say, oh, well, this is this and this is that. So as a family member, you are going to want to learn about Emory, and we want you to learn about Emory. And so hopefully you can do it alongside your student in a way that's positive, that your student doesn't feel that you're trying to take over. And because we want the students to learn, we want them to be the ones to get through this. But you are our partner, you are our family partner, and we want you to feel as good about Emory as your student does, and that you have the information that you need to help. What I say is usually like nudge your student. You just say, oh, how's that going? Or how's this? So these are all really great questions that you need to be talking about with your students, and in any format that works for you and your student. And don't ever hesitate to ask us a question. We've got a great website with the new student programs website, the college website. We have our family programs website. You can always email family@emory.edu. I work closely with my colleagues in the college. I get an answer within usually an hour or two. So we can get you the answers that you need to help you equip your student to learn about what they need to know. we have a lot of information that you're going to get over the next several weeks, and we're excited to give you this information. However, you are the best prescriptive information for us. You as family members, you ask the questions that we need to know how to make things more clear. So we wish you luck with this. We know it's a whole new learning process. However, we've got it pretty spelled out well, and we've got great experts. My colleagues here really are experts in their fields, and we're excited to help your students.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about those pre-registration advising appointments. I know Elizabeth and Kimber and I have been doing these for a few years. We're really excited to meet with your students. We meet with them in small groups and virtually on purpose. And we do this because we think that students have a lot of great questions, and when they ask that in front of others, it either calms their nerves to go, oh, Q, I had the same question, or brings something up that your student might not have been thinking about themselves. So the pre-registration advising appointment, if you want to ask those questions that we kind of posed on the previous slide, and maybe have your student write down their questions ahead of time for the PRA, that way they'll have them all in one spot, and when they have that hour-long meeting with their pre-registration advisor and other students, they have those questions ready. We often see parents kind of in the background or on the side during those meetings too. It's great. We're happy to have you listen along, but they really are for your students to ask the questions that they have or they need answered as well. So we'll go on again to talk a little bit on the next slide. Kimber mentioned this, that registration really is a process, not an event. So it's not one and done. There's no perfect schedule. Everything counts. We've said all of these things earlier in this presentation, but really, really important to reiterate. And, you know, there might be one or two classes that students really wanted and they're closed this semester. So instead of focusing on what they didn't get, really posing that question, well, let's look at your schedule. What are you really excited about? And sure, you might not have gotten that specific class, but you know, what door does this open for the other classes that you have? So, you know, reframing that for them and letting them know again that everything counts, nothing's lost. One of the things that I think we hear from our upper class students is, I got put in this class my first year. It was just to fill my schedule, or my friend was taking it, or somebody told me about it. I didn't know. And now I ended up majoring or minoring in that, or it was just a passion project that I would never have learned about on my own. So sometimes the randomness of picking classes that are open actually lead to some really cool opportunities as well. So I know that many of you have questions about how our classes will be delivered this year. Obviously, we are in a different kind of semester than we've ever been in before. And so at this time, we are still offering a mix of online and in-person classes. Obviously, the health and safety of our faculty, staff, and students is at the forefront. And so if any of that changes, we will let you know. But there have been a lot of questions about online, and especially what does online look like at Emory? How is that different than any online class that my students can access? So I'm really excited to share with you that Emory does online really well. We actually have had a nice foundation that we've been offering online classes in our summer sessions for over 5 years now. And so really our faculty members who've been delivering true online courses have gone through pedagogical training about how to deliver content online, have really thought through what happens in a synchronous session. So when everybody logs in at the same time versus asynchronous content, students learning things on their own time. And knowing what's been happening around the world, over 700 of our faculty have actually now gone through this online training this summer to prepare for online instruction in the fall. They've been grouped either by their department or class size or kind of delivery type to really think through creatively what should be synchronous, what should be asynchronous. How do we do assessments if we're not giving paper pencil tests in a classroom? What are different and new and creative ways to give assignments? And I think most importantly, how do we build community in our classrooms if we're not sitting next to each other? And so they've been working really, really hard on this all summer, and I think are really excited about some of the creative things that they've come up with. I'd also like to add that these are still our Emory faculty, and a big reason I think your students have chosen to come to Emory is to interact with our faculty members. So they are still world-renowned scholars and experts in their fields, and that doesn't change whatever format they're in. And I know that they're really excited to continue to connect with all of our students, even in an online format as well.
Sherry, I want to add to that too. I live in a neighborhood with a lot of Emory faculty members, and Emory faculty members are so incredibly intelligent, and they like a challenge. And so a few of my buddies in the neighborhood have said, I'm going to make this class even better, and I'm going to add humor to the class, and I'm going to be able to look at everyone's face all the time, and I'm going to make this a robust experience, and they don't know what they're in for. So I do want you to know faculty members are very tied to what they're teaching. It's really important to them, and that's why they're at Emory, and the student experience is really important to them. So a lot of our faculty members have even gone far away and above and beyond just to make the online experience a meaningful one. So they've had a lot of time to work on it, and they've had the experience they had in the spring, and now they're thinking all the time how to enhance the experience. So I think they really are in it for the whatever we have, whatever's ahead of us, and you will still, like Sherry said, get that great faculty expertise and the discussion of all the scholars in the classroom. You're going to have all the other students in the classroom who are top students in the country and in the world. So you're still going to have that.
So before we move on to the next slide, I want to make another note about how students are going to interact with our faculty beyond the classroom, and also share that there are some things, even in our new format, that are exactly the same as we've always done them. And so we've always assigned students to a faculty member who we call their pre-major faculty advisor. So all of the faculty members in Emory College serve as advisors for our first-year students because they actually want to meet students. They want to share their own experiences at Emory and welcome them to the community. And so we will pre-assign students to a faculty member. It is absolutely okay if their advisor is in a different academic area. The point is not to go deep into what's the major requirements, what do I have to take? We have lots of other experts for that, but it's really to help welcome them to the community and learn generally about faculty expectations and things like that. So that's not going to change. We will be doing those virtually this year just to make sure that everybody has access to their pre-major faculty advisor in a safe way. Something new that we're adding is actually every student will get to hear from a panel of faculty in addition to their specific pre-major faculty advisor. And so that gives them a chance to hear from some of our humanities or social science or natural scientist faculty, even if they're planning to study in a different area. I think I mentioned this before too, but the pre-registration advising appointments that are led by our OUE staff have always been virtual. And so that's something that didn't change. That was an easy win for us this summer. We've always done these virtually. We've always done them in small groups for exactly the reasons I explained before. And registration has always happened before our students start at the beginning of the semester too. So giving them those appointment times and letting them log into Opus and pick those classes from shopping carts, all of that's been exactly the same. And so we expect that that's going to be a smooth transition for the fall too. As your students are kind of looking at the delivery method for the classes, a little bit deeper on what online learning might look like, some things that they want to know is that we've created a schedule now where all classes start at the same time. So I think classes are beginning at 8 in the morning and then 9:40, 11:20. So that gives the students more flexibility to choose so there won't be as many overlaps with other classes. The classes are all listed in Eastern Standard Time. That is because that is where our faculty and staff are. And so for students who may be choosing to remain at home or in a different time zone, just being cognizant of that when they're selecting their classes also. Synchronous means that students will actually have to log in, just like you're logging in right now, at a specific time to interact in a live manner with their faculty and other students. And we really think that this is the crux of what the online experience is. We've received a ton of feedback from students who had to go into remote learning in the spring with the faculty, and they said that this was, their favorite part of the learning because they got to hear and talk with faculty. We heard from many students who might have been maybe a little bit more shy about speaking up in class or asking questions, who really loved utilizing the chats. We have really cool technology with Zoom where we can do breakout rooms and have small discussions. So some things in synchronous matters translate really, really nicely. I mentioned this before too, but for classes that will be meeting online, there will be asynchronous content too. And that just means that faculty members might have pre-recorded lectures, videos to watch, assignments, other things that students will do on their own time. So it gives them some more flexibility. And what students need to be looking for in the schedules is specifically when those synchronous class times meet. It might be twice a week, it might only be once a week, but that they are still expected to do work outside of those synchronous meetings as well. So that is the end of our official advising overview and how we hope that you can support your students through this process. We know that you have so many other questions coming up, and so as we mentioned, this is pre-recorded, but we will be reviewing your questions in the chat if you have them. You can also always share questions that you have with ec.orientation@emory.edu, and we're happy to find the right answers for you. I'll run through, but Elizabeth and Kimber, anything else you guys want to add before our students jump into their pre-registration advising appointments?
Only that we're really looking forward to working with you in these PRA appointments and also to working with you in the fall.
Yes, we'll see you soon.
Great. And Bridget, anything else that you want to add?
This is an exciting time for families because you're really starting the academic journey. So we're excited for you, and we look forward to hearing about your students and having them work with our staff. So good luck.
And again, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to working with you and your students throughout the rest of the summer.
Bye.